Greetings from the studios of Notice Life. This is Chip and Kwung with another edition of Spotlight Nagaland. Would you believe me if I told you that Nagas are naturally gifted musically? Well, in fact, you will find musical instruments in almost every house you enter in Nagaland. Today I have award-winning seasoned musicians, educators as guests to discuss on the present and future of the music industry in Nagaland and what it takes to make a career out of it. I welcome my guest, Bethel Cesar, recipient of Governor's Award for Music 2022, proprietor of Mountain Music Academy, Dimapur, director of Bright Lights Children's Choir, piano maestro, and many more. Also joining us today is Thenglamo Nguli, runner-up Naga Idol 2012, performed in China, Korea, and Myanmar for a handshake concert representing India, performed at Isha Ambani's wedding, a certified vocal teacher from Rock School London, and more feathers on his hat. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you so much for being on Spotlight Nagaland today.
Thank you, Chipin, for having me on your show.
It's my pleasure.
Thank
now,
you.
I believe in being a gentleman, so I would like to come to you first, Bethel.
Shoot your question.
Yes. How did you get into music? Tell us about your early inspirations.
Okay. I started piano at about the age of 6. Musical influence was pretty much earlier than that because everybody in the family was into music, singing hymns and, church music and stuff like that. But I started formally piano training at the age of about 6 under Margaret Shishak, late Margaret Shishak. I also started teaching when I was in about class 8. So my first pocket money started, it was exciting. And I then went on to further my music education in Singapore. And then I also took up more music education, short lessons and short courses in Greece and in America, and so on. So music has I was born into music, so my sisters are all pianists and singers, so everybody in the family is into some kind of music.
What a blessing that Nagaland has your family, particularly you, that have done so much for the people of the state, especially when it comes to training the young musical minds. So thank you very much for your service to the state. Now let's go to Thenglamo. Yes, but before I go to Thenglamo, now Bethel, so you have talked about your inspiration, and now where are you today? Let's just talk about the last 10 years. Let's go back to the last 10 years, and in between these 10 years, let's say 2014 to 2024, how much has happened?
It's quite interesting you chose 10 years because till 2014 I wasn't back home yet. Still, I was working with music companies and was based in Bangalore and then in Delhi. And so to 2014 I came back home to Dimapur, Nagaland, and I said, okay, this is it. I think it's time for me to come home and settle down and give back. So from 2014 till now, immense spurt and growth in music in Nagaland, which is quite exciting for musicians. I have been busy performing with our home-based band. We called ourselves the Teaspoon Project. I also was busy running our music school. It's called Mountain Music Academy, and I'm still running it, so that keeps me busy. We also have a music retail outlet because, long story, we needed to bring in acoustic pianos for our students, and that's how it started from our home. And that's also running. And so in the last 10 years, then the choir that I'm running right now, I'm artistic director of Bright Lights Children's Choir, but it's actually a teenagers come children, so I call it the tweens and the teens choir. That keeps me quite busy, and teaching, and so everything around music. So I'm not specifically into this particular work, but mostly
That's right,
educating.
yeah.
Education, yeah.
I think, long story short, you have come a long way, but whatever you have achieved so far, within these 10, 15, 20 years, let's just say, put it that way, it's really commendable, and we are really grateful for that, and we commend you for that. Now, let's go to Thinglamo. Thinglamo, welcome back. How was your initial journey like? What did you have to face to get where you are today, Thinglamo?
I think they say life is not easy for any profession, right? So everybody has their own story of struggle and also good moments. For me, again, I was born and raised in the village. So it was that was the most challenging part, to come to the city and then adapt to a lot of things, not just singing, but manners and etiquette. So that was one challenging part. And musically, of course, I think Beth would also agree with me. It's been just about like a decade, or maybe not even a decade, since music is now a bit smoother, I think. So when I officially started my journey, professionally started my journey in 2012, where I was awarded with the second runner-up of Naga Idol. So it was, the challenges were about trying to fit in to great personalities like Sernice Mirno, and like we have one here, Ma'am Beth. So that was the challenging part, but eventually, yeah, after 4 or 5 years, I also worked really hard, and I am growing every day, learning every day.
Exactly. I think we never stop learning, we never stop growing, and reminiscing the 2012 part, I remember voting for, because back then we had those cards, those voting cards that you had to purchase, if you wanted to vote for somebody. So I remember doing that a lot, instead, in fact, shelling out my pocket money. So it was such lovely memories. Now, Thinglamo, anywhere you go in India, people have this assumption that, just because you are a Naga, you know music. Is that true, or is that just a myth that needs to be busted? Thinglamo, what do you think?
Well, I think it's the truth, yeah, because like you mentioned, like Beth has mentioned earlier, I think in Nagaland, every family has at least 2 or 3 musicians, or at least 1 musician. So we can proudly say that if Nagas are known for our music, first of all, I think. If Beth would want to add on, I think Beth might want to add on to that answer.
I think you said it very well. That's about it. We're musical, so it's also in us. I think when we go out, we can't stop ourselves from picking up the guitar or singing a line, or it's not a show off thing, but it comes naturally. Like, I think how the Naga would, like the rest of India, the moment they hear a beat, they start dancing so naturally,
Right.
And for Nagas, we don't dance so easily, but we do sing easily or play an instrument.
I'm with you. I'm on the same page. Yeah. Now, Bethel, where are Naga musicians, as compared to the other states? Where do Naga musicians stand? What makes Naga musicians different from those, from other states? Do we have any such, characteristic or distinctiveness that make us stand out?
The first question you asked was, where do we stand, right? Musicians. If like 10 to 15 years back, I think music was really just a hobby. There's another category of musicians in Nagaland called Western classical, serious musicians, Western classical church musicians, or classical musicians, that in those days you could literally count in your fingertips how many are studying music outside, and how many came back from America or Singapore or Philippines to teach, and now they are serving our people. But generally, the other group of musicians, 10 to 15 years back, music was just considered a hobby, and it could not take further roots. But now, the current scenario is that musicians have avenues. We have platforms that allows musicians to take music as a profession. The thing is that although we've come to a space where we can take music as a profession, these avenues are still not bringing in enough revenues. I think that's our major problem right now. So the question should be whether there's revenue coming in from this.
That's right. And we are also going down to that part later in the discussion. But now, another question is there any such unique characteristic, or do we have any distinctiveness to stand out, or that can make us stand out from the rest, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, straight on, I can answer that. The thing that comes to my mind is Naga folk music. Our identity is our folk music. If we want to stand out, we need to be different, and I think that has to be used to the maximum, and that's where we need to enter folk fusion or folk music.
Bingo, bullseye. Bullseye. Now, Thenglamo, Bethel, I'm going to come back to you with more interesting questions, but to Thenglamo, back to Thenglamo once again. Now, Thenglamo, is the current music scenario in the state competitive? What are the challenges that musicians have to deal with?
It is actually very competitive. Like you said, Nagas are naturally gifted, especially in the music. So right now, we have really front runners like I would mention like Pet, Cernise, and a lot of people. So they have inspired us. And also a lot of youths, I would say around at least 500 or maybe more than 500 youth are employed actually. I think maybe 1,000 now, more graduates, like some are employed in schools as music teachers. Some are making a lot of money by performing. Some are making money by writing songs and then, and so on. So the music is, I think right now the current music state is quite competitive. I would say it is in one music school we would have at least around 200 students, or maybe 100 students, and in Dimapur itself we have around 30 plus music schools. So imagine in one district having that many schools and how competitive that would be actually. So it is really, the competition is also good, but at the same time, that also becomes a challenge sometimes.
That makes sense, yeah. That makes perfect sense. Now, Thenglamo, social media, social media makes everything go viral. Even the things, the side of the stories that you do not want people to know about it, everything goes viral, and, we cannot help but attract criticisms or all of this slamming and all. These are just part of the social media trend. Now, Thenglamo, are there any stereotypical beliefs or assumptions towards musicians in Nagaland? If there are, or if there is, have you faced any?
For me, I think I have been very careful actually of how I use social media. So I have not really faced any such criticism. Of course, constructive criticism I have received, but bashing or anything like that. So on that note, I'm quite grateful, but definitely, again, social media is very powerful. So for not just musicians, but for any, from fashion or whatever, I think it all boils down to an individual, again, like how you use it, right?
That's
right. Want criticism, if you want, like they say that any promotion is a promotion. So if you really want to become famous, you do stupid things. Just post it and then you become famous. Otherwise, I think, like I said earlier, it all boils down to how we use it. So
that's right.
I cannot really categorize right now, not just like music industry, but even in other industry also, a lot of things have to be like.
That's right. So it's just right. So we have to know, how to utilize all of these technologies that we are gifted with. Now, Beth, I have one more question for you here, adding to what Thenglamo has said. Now, the music era that invaded Nagaland, let's talk about the late 70s or the early 80s, when the rock and roll era was so strong, it just swept the entire Nagaland off its feet. And unfortunately, that rock and roll era was associated with drugs, blood, all of those revolution. That was the identity, somehow we can say. So how about right now, we are, in 2024, how has the identity of music and musicians among the local people or among the masses changed?
Interesting question. Something I haven't really thought about, honestly. I mean, fame, music, drugs, alcohol, all that do go hand in hand, let's be honest, okay? But of course, it depends from person to person how you use it and how you, handle it. Currently, I think that wave, then I've seen friends and family swept off, by drugs. Some are still alive, and I'm surprised. They've been, they fought through it and they've come out. But there was a generation, Chip, and you would understand, I think, even Tungamo, there was a generation that's just wiped off, and I think that's definitely not happening anymore. I suppose technology is good in a way. It's made us more smarter. We're not using substance,
Exactly.
to build relationships. Our musicians now, I think we're more serious about what we're doing. We're not just fooling around anymore. When we are talented, we know we know that this is something we need to do something about it, And so the gift that we're given, we're using it more seriously. So yeah,
Exactly.
I don't think that's happening now. I wouldn't worry much about that.
That's something that we all should be very happy, about, because as you rightly pointed out, we have become smarter as technology evolved. We have also evolved with time, so that's a great thing. Now, Petal and Tinglamo, please stay online, stay with us, because we're going on a very quick break. It's going to be very quick, so please stay put. So welcome back. I have two guests with me today on this show, Spotlight Nagaland. We have Betel Cesar and Tinglamo Nguli. So Betel, coming back to you now, what are the opportunities for a musician in Nagaland? Now everybody talks about Nagaland as a land of music, where music flows like milk and honey. So let's talk about the opportunities now. What are the opportunities, and can music be a full-time profession in Nagaland? What are your thoughts?
The opportunities have definitely increased with the change in the music scenario. I think it's fair to mention here that one of the major reasons and contribution to the growth of music and musicians in the state is hugely because of the support of the government of Nagaland. Okay, we can't deny that. We are the only state, maybe even in India, with a department dedicated to music and art. And this department is called TAFMA, Task Force for Music and Arts, and currently headed by Sri Teja Meru. This has definitely created a lot of platforms and new opportunities. The only thing is there are more, there are opportunities that are not enough in the state, okay? Our Naga artists are most times sent out to perform outside. So, that way TAFMA has been very smart and very, wise in building relationship with even managers and other entities. And so that's how our artists are getting more opportunities. When you talk about your question was, what are the opportunities that comes with this profession? Simply put, as a musician, it's to travel the world, meet and build relationships. You get to earn, you become famous, you do something you love. There's so many in it. We can change lives and community.
Right.
But are there better opportunities now? Yes, there are, for sure.
Right. Adding to what you have very diplomatically put out, now, can Nagas make music as, a full-time profession? If so, what needs to be done, or what must one do to make music a full-time profession, to survive on it?
This question is for me still, right?
Right.
Music, I feel personally, it's very hard to still make music a full-time career. To be very honest again, if I may say so, I think the only music career that is able to steadily support a home and a family is a music educator, a music teacher, or a music coach in Nagaland. Like Tunglamo said, so many students, thanks to these children, thanks to families that are sending their children to our schools. Teachers are able to earn enough, to take care of themselves and their families. I think in the next few years, for sure, career should be an option. Music as a career should be an option, but right now we're still in the struggling phase. There are few that have made it nationally, internationally, that are doing well and are full-time musicians. And I hope this will be the story for all the upcoming talented musicians. And I can name some of them like Tetsu Sisters, Alobo Naga and the band, Nise Meruno, Imnainla Jamir, Trans Effect. These are musicians I think are full time, you know?
Right.
And so they can be considered as a full-time musician, you know? But I'm sad to say that we still need a side income, a job, something else to help us to manage. Although we call ourselves musicians, we are still not at that space where we have enough avenues to make a living.
That's right. That's right. So, Thinglamo, now coming back to you, is inconsistency a factor among Naga musicians? There have been many one-time hit makers that have come and gone. Now, the question is, why don't our musicians remain relevant? Why don't they stick around? Not everybody. I'm not talking about everybody here, but some, you know, one-time hit makers. Why don't they stay relevant? Why don't they stick around?
Absolutely, we can see, we cannot deny. It's like Beth has said again, the job and then the career option. I was going to say otherwise, but I'm convinced by Beth that actually it's true. Only few of us are actually making a full-time, you know, living out of music. And of course, in 5 years, I hope to see changes because, like I said, now we have a full-time three music colleges, right? And then every year, imagine 60, 70 people are graduating. So where are these musicians going to go? And anyway, to add on to that again, inconsistency is, again, not knowing what we really want. Again, music is such a vast subject. We want to do everything, actually. For example, some of us want to perform also, write songs also, teach also, everything. And I think we can't do everything, right? We have to know what we really want. I think that is where, like you mentioned, one day one musician will pop up and then just hit and then they'll disappear, I think. So that's also one reason, not knowing what we want, because music is a vast subject, actually. Again, you can be a teacher, you can be a composer, or you can be a sound engineer. But a lot of us, we want to do everything, actually, at that time. So maybe that might be one reason why a lot of musicians are just coming and disappearing again. So starting from me, I think we really need to work on the consistency. I think I'm also realizing what we really want.
I think that's an eye-opening remark for me because I haven't looked at that thing that way. Maybe because we are like jack of all trades and master of none. We want to put our hands into everything that we see. So that may be a factor, but yes. Now, Pat, coming to you, we have this younger generation of musicians, especially the singers, they have amazing voices. So we cannot deny that. They have world-class voices, very unique voices coming out from Nagaland. But now, is it time? You see, because what most of them do is they just sing cover songs. They just cover someone else's songs. Now, the question is it time? Is it time to come up with a signature Naga genre? I love English, yes, of course, no doubt, but wouldn't it make us prouder and take more ownership if, we came up with a Naga genre with which the world can recognize us? Is that a wishful thinking or can it actually come true? Beth, what do you think?
Definitely not wishful thinking. Definitely it is time. It is high time, in fact, because we've all, like you said, enough of covers. And I think that's what we must push towards. And I see a lot of young musicians now trying to come up with their own music, okay, which is good. I believe our identity, again, is our Naga folk music. And I hope and encourage Naga musicians, myself included, Thinglamo included, to explore deeper into our Naga folk music. We have a challenge, and the challenge is language, dialect. When you are dealing with 20 over dialects, which dialect are you going to be able to sell? When I compose a Chekasang music, Tunglamo's not going to understand a word. He sings a Lota music, none of us are going to understand unless you're Lota. So that challenge, that barrier, that wall is our challenge. We could use Nagamis, it's the market language, but that's the only language we all can connect through. So I think language barrier, that wall has to be broken first. Secondly, yes, folk music, then the language comes in, because I think even if the language is a barrier, there are some songs now that are trending and really beautiful. For example,
right.
And everybody sings. All my children in the Bright Lights Choir sings it like it's their language, as if they've heard that language, and they don't understand what they're singing. But music is universal. You don't need words sometimes. The melody alone can hit you, the chords, the keys, So there are many things you can use in music to touch one another and make it signature Naga music. So yes, it is time for sure.
Exactly. I just remembered what Bob Marley said. The most beautiful thing about music is that when it hits you, you feel no pain. That's so beautifully said. And yes, Bethel, you spoke about, focusing and channeling our attention towards folk music. You were even urging yourself and Thanglamo, so I'm going to keep my eyes on both of you.
Yes.
Now, yes, I have one more question for Thanglamo. Now, do Naga musicians have the potential to top the billboards or win Grammys? Can Naga music compete with international genres? What do we need to do to get there? Thanglamo.
Absolutely. I think I believe that we have the potential and the capabilities. But actually I'm sure. Not immediately, but let's see, maybe in 10 years. Right now, when you talk about billboards, again, it's going towards people who are making music. For example, I don't really make music that much. I'm a full-time music educator. So this goes to people who make music and who are putting up on internet, on like, what are the apps that we can actually sell? There are so many facilities, right? So I think this question is going towards them. But I think Ben will agree with me. There's great songs coming up. We can mention like Abdon, we can mention Goko Savino, and we can mention Serdali Ang. So many of them, amazing. It's just that sometimes, unfortunately, people want to listen only the people that are known worldwide. Otherwise, musically, if we really look into the details and the techniques, definitely we have the potential and the capacity to reach there.
That's
Ben,
right.
I agree with you.
Something there.
Please.
We have K-pop, we have Japanese pop, J-pop. It's time for us to have N-pop.
Exactly. I agree with you. And I think it is, we are all responsible for making that come true. So let's all play our part. And yes, big shout out to all the Naga musicians, those who are working, striving day and night, day in and day out to make that happen. And also a big shout out to the government of Nagaland, especially TAFMA, for being there always for Naga musicians, helping them, guiding them through their journey as musicians. A big thank you to the Nagaland government also. But also we expect and we hope that more will be done for the Naga musicians so that we can not just, in the Northeast, but we can attain international greatness as well. So, well, ladies, gentlemen, I genuinely wish we had more time to discuss on this subject matter. However, this is all the time we have for this show. I thank you, Ma'am Betel Tsisa and Mr. Thanglamo Nguli, for enriching us with your knowledge and experience. Thank you very much. Both of you, Northeast Life wishes you both well.
Thank you so much.
With that being said, thank you so much for watching Chip and Kwung Spotlight Nagaland.